college football playoffs, fellas. It's the semifinals that just took place. What were the takeaways? I mean, we got Washington and Michigan in the championship round, but, man, like, those were some really, really exciting games. I wasn't happy that Florida State did not make it into the football playoff. Man. Got to say, I might have not have been happy that Georgia didn't make it into the football playoff, and they showed Florida State why they shouldn't have been in the football playoff and why they should have been in the football playoff. But nonetheless, we have Washington. They have a big, big, big win in their game, and Michigan pulled out their win as well. So here we go, Texas versus Washington. They get the win. Washington Huskies advance, and Michigan gets the win against the Tide. What were y'all takeaways, man?
I mean, for me, it was. I felt Washington and Texas was more of the 50-50 game. I felt like going into Michigan-Bama, Michigan was going to win that game. That's what I thought going into it. Both games, as we know, came down to the last drive, went down to the wire. And Washington, with this offense that they have, the explosiveness, the receivers, the offensive line, like I felt like, oh, yeah, Texas defensive line is going to put a ton of pressure on Penix and that Washington O-line. He's going to have to get rid of the ball.
No, their O-line is fire.
That O-line is so good.
They tough, and they fast.
The receivers and Penix, they get all the credit. But that O-line is really, really good. So I'm interested to see how Michigan matches up with them, what type of game we get. But when you say – Georgia or Florida State should have been – the way these semifinal games went, I don't know how you take any of those teams out. They were that impressive to me.
It was as advertised. I will say that.
If Texas, to me, out of all the teams there, Texas didn't have the quarterback play of the other team. Quinn Ewers is not J.J. McCarthy. He's not Penix. And he wasn't even Milroe. Like, I felt like he missed some throws that – had he made, Texas probably would have had a chance to win this game.
Plexico's a fan of Milroe. I mean, what was your takeaway from the games?
You know, I was a little disappointed. I can't even front because I can't believe that I got to sit here and watch Michigan play for a national championship.
Yeah, because you did pick Bama to win. I recall last Saturday.
They are that much better than us 45 minutes down the street. And they get ready to compete for a national. It makes me sick to my stomach. It really does.
How'd y'all last game go?
Oh, my greatness.
Who did play last?
Milroe, I thought the Alabama and the Michigan game, Milroe didn't have a pass completed until the second half. This is my first time watching him play for a whole football game.
Your text messages
I did not know that he was not a pass-capable quarterback, and I learned that watching the game against Michigan. But I'll say this, man. You know, going to this national championship game, it's a possibility that Washington may go 14-0, 15-0.
Man,
I don't see why they can't.
That offense, they get whew.
And if I'm Michigan and I'm looking at this Washington offense, you know, this offensive line, just like you said, nobody knew how good they were until they played Texas. I don't know how they're going to slow these guys down when they come out in 4 or 5 wide receivers. And that's why I said a few weeks ago that I thought Michael Penix Jr. was a Heisman Trophy winner. And he's putting that on display. Why he is the best player in college football. And I'm really looking forward to this game to see what Michigan is going to do defensively to slow Washington down. And the running back from Washington is not bad either.
They run the ball.
They do. They really
do run the ball.
And they're a complete offense.
They're a lot more physical than you take them for. And listen, it's been a pleasure watching it, obviously because they're on the West Coast over here with you guys, so we don't really get to see them play that much on the East Coast. But, man, they may just be the best college team in the nation, and we're going to find out on Monday.
And they're coming to the 10 next year, which is kind of scary when you start to think about it. Yeah.
Them in Oregon. So all you teams in the Big
Washington's coming to the Big Ten.
All you teams.
But Michael Penix Jr. be gone, though.
Yeah, he's going to be gone. But hey, here's the problem with Michael Penix Jr. He was in the 10. He was at Indiana, and was giving people all kinds of problems in the COVID year. And
so that means Penn State going to finish a little lower than they're normally used to finishing.
Yo, so tell me this. I just saw
bang bang at 9:08 in the morning, 12 noon Eastern.
Hey, tell me this. So I saw that Tua off subject. Tua from Maryland.
Going for his 10th year of eligibility.
He's in the portal. Yeah. So if you're about to graduate as a senior, you can go into the portal and get another year eligibility?
No, what he's trying to do is see if he can get another year, because when he was at Bama, he played in 5 games when you're only allowed to play in 4. But in one of the games, he only played like 2 snaps.
And that counts as him playing?
It counts as a season. And he's also saying the COVID season technically wasn't a full season. We only played 4 or 5 games. So he's trying to see if the NCAA will give him another year. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't.
I mean, cats is like
they probably will.
Then we have like a 7th year, 8th year player, tight end or something like that. He kept getting injured or whatever. Transferred like 7, 8 years.
And these guys want to enjoy
that man hitting like 30 and he's still in college. Do something with your life, man. Hey, listen.
He ain't ready to move on.
He ain't ready. Professional college football player. When I look at Washington, I got an opportunity. Me and man went to Vegas to see them play in the Pac championship against Oregon. And I really thought that Oregon was going to give them some problems. And they did at one point. They made it a game. But the one thing that you said, TJ, that I think I lean on with Washington is they've proven that they're a complete team. Like their offense, they're very unassumingly or sneaky physical. It's a physical football team on the offensive side of the ball. But the one thing that, I'm a defensive guy, so one thing I was super impressed about was the way they play defense. Like they just seemed like they were faster than Oregon, and Oregon is fast.
Right.
That's a fast group. That's a fast outfit. And Washington looked faster. They looked more physical. And I was like, well, man, like this is kind of a shocker. And I was wondering how that would translate against an athletic, super physical Texas team. And I'll tell you what, it translated well. They get after the quarterback very well. That's the one thing that they really have prided themselves on, is having a really good pass rush, being able to get to the quarterback and putting that pressure on them. And so that was a super critical piece. And I think that'll be a critical piece in this game against Michigan. Michigan doesn't really like throwing the ball. I mean, if you recall the game against us, they didn't throw the ball at all in the second half.
Look at the statistics from J.J. McCarthy in this last game against Alabama. He completed 4 passes in the second half.
But he can throw the ball.
He hides behind the running game and Corum in that defense.
But he can throw the ball.
They ask him to manage the football game. That is exactly what they do.
Because they beat the hell out of everybody that they play against. They wear you the hell down.
They have a stellar defense and probably the best running game in all of college football.
This is what we're going to find out.
And they hide him behind that.
Because you say they have a stellar defense.
Right.
They have yet to face anybody that's close to Washington offensively.
No.
And so Michigan loves to play man-to-man defense. You're going to have to man up Odunze. You're going to have to man up McMillan. You're going to have to man up Polk.
You ain't playing man.
And so that will be interesting to see how Michigan corners match up against Washington's receivers. Michigan's going to play man-to-man. That's what they're going to do. They did it against Ohio State. They do it against everybody. And so can they match up with Washington's receivers, and then will they be able to pressure Penix? If they can't pressure Penix, does Michigan have enough firepower on offense to keep up?
Just keep in mind, last year the firepower wasn't there when they played in the playoffs. And against
Michigan.
Texas Tech, and against a Texas Tech team that TCU team that to me was a running gun style offense as well. They were speedy, they were undersized, but they caught Michigan off guard. Now I don't think Michigan's going to get caught off guard this year against Washington, but I also think that Washington is a better team coming into this game against Michigan than what TCU was going up against.
I also think
Michigan
is a much better team as well. They're better defensively than they were last year.
Yeah, they are. I think going into this last game with Texas and Washington, everybody was picking Texas because, just like you said earlier, everybody thought that Texas was going to out physical Washington.
Yeah, I mean,
and I did too.
It seemed to make sense.
And I watched that football game, and just like you said, they were sneaky physical on the low, and I think it kind of shocked Texas a little bit.